It's impossible to overstate what a big deal this is.
No one just lies. What is the lie covering up?
My hope is that General Flynn will tell everything he knows.
If I did a tenth of what she did, I would be in jail today. Yeah, that's right. Lock her up.
Joining us now, David Frum, senior editor for The Atlantic, Ken Delaney, an intelligence and national security reporter for NBC News, and Barbara McQuaid, professor of law at the University of Michigan and a former federal prosecutor. She's also an NBC News and MSNBC legal contributor. And Ken, I want to go first to you about the information you've developed today about Jared Kushner's role in the legal filings that the special prosecutor filed today.
That's right, Lawrence. Well, NBC News is reporting that Jared Kushner was the very senior transition official who tasked Mike Flynn with going to the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, about this United Nations Security Council resolution condemning Israeli settlements in the Palestinian territories that the Obama administration was going to let pass by abstaining. Now, and it ultimately did pass. The Israelis hated this resolution. The Trump team was very public in opposing it. But what Mike Flynn was doing was trying to get the Russians to help them derail it. And that is part of a series of pieces of evidence here that the Trump team was essentially negotiating before it took office with the Russians on foreign policy. And what that looks like, according to one person I talked to today, is a conspiracy to violate the Logan Act, a 1799 law that says you're not supposed to do that. Now, that law has never been prosecuted, and none of these documents today mention it. There's been no charges filed in that case, but it's an interesting idea, and we certainly know that as a matter of tradition, we have one administration at a time in this country, and it's not considered proper for the incoming administration to be negotiating and undercutting the current administration, Lawrence.
David Frum, as we close out this day of coverage on this, I just want to get your reaction to everything that has unfolded today in whatever order you'd like to give it.
Well, in your opening monologue, Lawrence, you very powerfully described the walls closing in on the president. But there's one other piece of the wall that is closing in today, and that's on a different track but the same timeline, and that is the Senate tax bill. Now, probably a lot of people watching your show are not enthusiastic about that tax bill. But the thing to keep in mind is that bill is the devil's bargain that Senate and House Republicans have struck with Donald Trump. Once they have his signature on that bill, should it pass, they don't need him quite as much as they do. They have been his protective shield until now. They have their business. That's another piece of closing in wall that he has to contend with.
Barbara McQuaid, I want to go to the question that has been vexing me all day, which is why would Michael Flynn lie to an FBI agent? He had to know that lying to the FBI is a crime. He seems to also be aware that the conduct he was being asked about, if admitted to, constitutes a crime. So do you imagine he was sitting there staring at these FBI agents asking him these questions, realizing that if he admits to this, he's admitting to violations of the Logan Act. If he doesn't admit to it, he's taking his chances on getting away with the violation of the Logan Act and getting away with lying to an FBI agent, which just seems, I don't know, inconceivable to me.
Yeah, it's difficult to know. You know, one thing that it's important to understand is that when FBI agents are interviewing somebody as part of an investigation, it is part of the protocol to tell the person that it is a crime to lie to the FBI. Part of that is just sort of fair notice to the witness, but the other part of it is it's an element of the crime that they'll have to prove later that the person knew it was against the law to lie to them. So the very first thing that they do, they show them their badges, make sure that everybody knows that this is for real, this is serious, and it's a crime to lie to the FBI. So with that, you know, this is not a passing moment of lapse of judgment. You have to think very carefully about whether you want to tell the truth in this situation. And so to decide to lie, it's hard to know exactly what was going on in his mind, but a number of possibilities. One is that I knew I was violating the Logan Act. I'm not sure he did. As you said, it's a fairly obscure law. that has never been prosecuted. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't know that there was a crime on the books. I have to think that most people understand that you can't undermine the foreign policy of the United States, and that he was protecting not only himself, but others who are higher in the administration, and that the stakes were high.
And Barbara, when you say the FBI agents announced that it is a crime to lie to them, in your experience, does that function as actually an incentive for more people to tell the truth? Some who might have been thinking about maybe shading things a little bit?
Well, you hope it causes them to make a very sober assessment of what they're about to do. You can't blow smoke. You can't exaggerate. This is serious business. The time is now. We're going to ask you some questions, and we need you to answer them truthfully. And it's a crime if you lie to us. You would hope that that sends a message to most people that you need to take this seriously and answer these questions truthfully. And if you don't, there could be very serious consequences.
David Frum, you've worked in government. I'm not sure anyone in government, from the interns up, have to be told that the worst possible thing that can happen to you is to discover that the FBI has some things that they'd like to ask you about that you've been doing. That just the knowledge that they want to talk to you should be enough to straighten you into what you need to do, which is tell them the truth.
Well, also, all the other things you might be in trouble for are actually easier to defend. I mean, you may remember, now it's a decade ago, the Scooter Libby Valerie Plame story. Remember that Karl Rove, who also gave up Valerie Plame's name, was never prosecuted because when the FBI, or the special prosecutor asked him, he havered a little bit, but in the end he told the truth. And the truth was, it turned out, that the actual underlying act was not illegal, but the people who lied to the FBI got in trouble. I mean, if all that Michael Flynn had done was violate the Logan Act, and he'd said to the FBI, you know, looking back on it, I probably violated the Logan Act, and I don't feel a bit sorry about it, nothing would have happened. No one's ever prosecuted for violating the Logan Act. And that makes me think it has to be more than that, because for the Logan Act, why would you lie?
Ken Delanian, what does this tell us about where we are in the investigation? There have been those utterly silly comments out of Ty Cobb at the White House saying that, you know, it looks like it's wrapping up soon. Those are comments that he must be trying to convince Donald Trump of, because no one else can believe that.
Yeah, it wasn't a good day for Mike Flynn. It also wasn't a good day for Ty Cobb and for that position that he's been espousing for weeks, Lawrence. Clearly, there's a long way to go. But I'll say this, you know, these court documents today did not really speak to the central issue of this Mueller investigation, which is, did the Trump campaign collude with the Russian effort to intervene in the election? Was there coordination over those leaked emails and WikiLeaks? But you know who would know whether that happened, if in fact it happened? Mike Flynn would know, because he was in every significant meeting during the Trump campaign, particularly around national security, and he was in every important meeting in the first 3 weeks of the Trump administration. So you can bet that, you know, Robert Mueller is expecting to hear everything that Mike Flynn may or may not know about the campaign's contacts with the Russians. And don't forget, there was that Wall Street Journal story that Robert Mueller was investigating whether Mike Flynn was part of an effort to try to find the missing Hillary Clinton emails during the campaign. So I think there's a lot left to learn about what Mike Flynn may know about what happened during this campaign, Lawrence.
Ken Delanian and Barbara Mulcahy, thank you both for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.